In a game the Dodgers really needed to win, it looked a couple times like they weren't going to do it, but they pulled it out. A very important win for the Dodgers over the Pirates. Came back from a 4-0 deficit, got through a couple really tough innings on the mound, and ultimately picked up a game in the National League West. We have so much to talk about this game, about what the pitching staff is going to look like over the next few days, and the fact that they did gain a game finally on the Diamondbacks. That's what's on tap. So let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. Or even better, go and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. Then you can be an everydayer just like we are. If this is your first time with us, I am Jeff Snider. That guy next to me is Vince Samperio, who is now 11-0 this year in Dodger games that he has attended. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like you are. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. And this game was not a sleeper, Vince. This game was way too intense for a middle of July game. Dodgers went down 4-0. Really, Bobby Miller only made a couple bad pitches, but unfortunately, both of them got hit over the wall, and one of them came with 2 runners on base. And so they were in a hole, and they battled back. They took a lead, and then 2 different times, it looked like they were going to blow that lead with bases loaded, nobody out. They got out of both jams. I don't even know where to start with this. I guess I'll start with Bobby Miller. You know, we talked yesterday about the difference between 5 2/3 innings and 6 runs allowed, like they got from the combination of Emmett Sheehan and Gavin Stone on Tuesday, and 5 2/3 and 4 runs allowed, or 6 innings and 5 runs allowed. And Bobby Miller gave them 5 2/3 innings, 4 runs allowed, and they got the win. And Miller himself said after the game, I feel like if I can hold the other team to 4 runs, we have a good chance to win. He said, obviously, I'd like to do better, but it's comforting to know that this offense can win a game when you allow 4 runs. And that's what we saw tonight. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, it's the 4 runs, but it's also going deep enough into the game to where the Dodgers can manage it with, just a couple, handful of relievers rather than 5 innings or 6 innings that the bullpen needs to pick up, especially considering some of the things we learned after the game about the bullpen. But yeah, I mean, other than, pretty tired of Jack Sawinski already, and he's only been in the league a couple years. So I look forward to, if the Pirates aren't good, he'll be a Dodgers trade candidate here in a few years. But yeah, I mean, he gave up the big hits. Fortunately, one of them, there was runners on base, but he gave the Dodgers enough. He went into the 6th inning, got 2 outs into that inning. So, Bickford was able to come up and finish it out. And then he ended up coming out for the next inning, which didn't quite work out well for him. But the Dodgers did the tightrope act, as you have here in the YouTube description. And yeah, it was good from Miller at this point. 5-6 innings, 3-4 runs the rest of the way. We were spoiled his first couple starts, and maybe he'll still have some starts like that, and maybe more might have some clunkers. But if the majority of his starts the rest of the way can be this, that's good enough for me right now.
Yeah, if he can get a little bit more efficient, because part of the reason he had to come out in the 6th inning was he was already over 100 pitches. He allowed a base runner. It was a 2-run lead, so the game was tight. And yeah, it made sense. He wasn't quite as sharp. And so it made sense for Dave Roberts to get him out of there. You would have loved for him to be able to finish that inning because, obviously the up and down for Bickford affected Bickford. But, it is something to build on, and we will absolutely take 5 2/3 over 3 1/3, like we've been getting from starters lately. It is kind of funny. Jack Suwinski was part of that trade from the Padres to the Pirates for Adam Frazier. And yeah, like when we think about the trade deadline and the moves we want the Dodgers to make, it's so Jack Swinski is a really good example of how if I was his general manager, I would be paralyzed by fear to make any trade because you got the Jack Swinski trade. Luke Raley. Luke Raley has like 800 home runs this year for the Rays.
You look at Preller's track record and he's very lucky he still has a job. Like he's traded away Suwinski. I think he traded away Emmanuel Clace. Obviously, Trey Turner like the first time around. Like he's given away a lot of talent to have a team that has only made it to one NLCS.
Yeah. The Padres have traded, the 2 major league teams worth of prospects over the last several years. And I would. Jack Suwinski definitely falls in the category of a dude I hate when we're playing against him, but I'd love to have him on the Dodgers. Even though he did strike out to end the game. And we're going to talk more about, let's talk about that one right now. Like the Daniel Hudson got into a jam. It was the second time in 3 innings that the Dodgers allowed bases loaded with nobody out. And for the second time in 3 innings, they got out of it. I guess we'll go in reverse order because I do want to talk about the Hudson one since we're talking about Suwinski right now anyway. Hudson gave up a double and then walked 2 guys to load the bases with nobody out in the 9th inning, 2-run lead. He then gets a strikeout and then a fly out to left that's not deep enough to score a run. Maybe, I think if the Pirates were down by 1, I think they send Connor Joe and he probably scores. Peralta, it's funny, David Peralta used to have a great arm. He doesn't have a great arm anymore. It's still relatively accurate, but it's not strong anymore. But because Connor Joe's run didn't really matter anyway, they didn't send him. It was the right move. He probably would have made it, but and then Jack Suwinski comes up and he battles and gets to a full count. And I loved in the post-game interview when Kirsten talked to Daniel Hudson on the field after the game, and he said basically his approach in that at bat was to not leave anything over the plate. He knew even if he walks Suwinski, it's still 6-5, and you got a chance to get the next guy. And I felt like that pitch that he threw, Suwinski is expecting a strike. He's like, this guy doesn't want to walk me and drive in a run. So he's in swing mode. He's expecting a strike and, probably expecting a fastball. And so but Hudson having the experience and the maturity, I said this on Twitter, like, sometimes I think that veteran presence or veteran whatever is a little overrated, but I think in this case it really, really came through because Hudson knew I'm going to make my pitch, and if I walk him, and I'll get the next guy. And I don't think a younger pitcher would have had the stones to make that pitch. I think a younger pitcher either throws the slider but isn't fully committed to it and hangs it, or goes back to the fastball, which is obviously what Suwinski was sitting on. And Hudson threw that slider, buried it like he wanted to, and Suwinski started to swing at a fastball, and by the time he realized it wasn't a fastball, it was too late. They got the strikeout. So it's that high risk, high reward pitch that I think a guy like Daniel Hudson is much more likely to make that pitch than a younger, less experienced pitcher.
Yeah. I feel like Bobby Miller would, but that's youthful arrogance rather than just youth.
It's probably a bell curve. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was set up because, and Hudson knows too, like if he walks him right there, yes, it's 1-run lead. It's a lot of danger, but Suwinski's been the guy that has hurt the Dodgers and hurt them earlier in the game. And, has been a thorn in their side for, not just his career, but like in the series so far this season. And, the next guy, Gonzalez, had a couple hits, but, and has good stats, but I think is still one of those guys you'd rather face than Suwinski. And, 3-2, you're not going to give him what he wants. You're going to give him what you want. And that's what he did. And it was obviously huge. And, Hudson talked about after the game, the things you don't realize, like, he said he was tearing up coming out of the bullpen gates, his first save appearance since, coming back from ACL surgery and ACL recovery. And, something I didn't really think about. And, maybe it did affect him early on, and then he settled in. And, when they needed the outs, he got the outs.
Yep. A lot more to talk about from this game. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. And please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Sleeper is a daily fantasy sports app where you can use your skill and knowledge to win real money. Want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Sleeper is now offering up to 100 times payout for up to 8 pick contests. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick more or less on your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you could win big. That's the highest payouts on the daily fantasy sports market. As an everydayer who spends your time between Dodger games listening to this podcast, you know your stuff about the Dodgers. You can use that knowledge to make your picks and win some money. You got a prediction on how Julio will do tonight in his second game back for the injured list? You might as well make some money when your prediction comes true. And right now is a great time to join because Locked On Dodgers listeners get up to $100 in matching on your first deposit. So download the Sleeper app and use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, we are back. We want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. We especially want to thank our everydayers, those of you who are with us either on the podcast or on YouTube every weekday morning. We love you. We appreciate you. And if you want to join that club, you want to be loved and appreciated by us, just watch or listen every day, or watch and listen every day. We'll double love you and appreciate you every day. You can also check out every Dodger game, the live hometown radio broadcast on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just launch the SXM app and search for Dodgers. And you can check out this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. With that said, I guess let's talk about the offense a little bit, Vince. The Dodgers scored 6 runs in this game. It was a battle, and they went down 4-0. You're now 11-0 in Dodger games that you've been at this year. We figured out, we think it's the second time that they've gone down 4-0 in those 11 games. The other one was Gavin Stone's major league debut that ended on a Max Muncy walk-off grand slam off Craig Kimbrell. And being down 4-0 is not a comfortable spot to be in. But with this offense, like, if you can have the perspective of, because it was, what was it, the 4th inning that Sawinski hit the 3-run homer?
4th.
And so you're like, okay, the Dodgers have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up to 6 at-bats left. I think you'd expect the Dodgers to score at least 4 runs in 6 innings against the Pirates. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, as long as we can shut it down here and not allow too many more runs, Dodgers are still in this game. And in that game against the Phillies, in Gavin Stone's debut, it was that same thing. It was chip away, chip away, chip away. And in that game, it wasn't until the bottom of the 8th that they came through. They got a little bit lucky on an error on an Austin Barnes line drive, let them take the lead. This time they didn't need any luck because JD Martinez went down and got a pitch that I don't think he had any business hitting out. Like, it wasn't a bad pitch. It was a slider below the zone. JD Martinez has looked pretty AJ Pollocky on sliders lately. A lot of swing and miss. And most of those are below the zone and outside. And this one was just below the zone. So he was able to go down and get it. But it was a remarkably good swing by JD Martinez to hit that pitch out because I think the pitcher basically made his pitch.
Yeah, I mean, if obviously he would have liked it a little lower or maybe a little more outside, but it still, like you said, wasn't a bad pitch by any means. And I don't like the fact that he pulled, like, I don't know, actually being there live off the bat, I didn't think it had enough initially, just from where the angle I was at. I was on field level, a little bit different angle today. But then when I watched the replay, I'm like, oh, off the bat, you could tell that was gone on TV at least. So, but yeah, I mean, it was big. And, you look at the Dodgers offense and how it came through today. And it was, 6 runs on 6 hits, but they also had 6 walks, only struck out 7 times. Putting the ball in play is a cliche, but, for the most part, it's worked. And, they got some hits. They got the big hits, obviously, with the home runs, but they constantly had trouble. And like you said, when they had 6 innings or 6 at-bats left, and you're thinking, okay, well, the Pirates don't have, it's not like a, all-star pitcher on the mound. And then Bednar maybe was probably out because he had to do an up and down last night. So maybe, you think, all right, they're down their best reliever as well, possibly. It's like, okay, there's a chance, just like you said, chip away. They got those 2 runs back. That was huge. Okay, now you're back in the game. And they get the 3 runs the next inning, and or 4 runs, and then okay, now you're back on top. And obviously it was a roller coaster ride after that in terms of on the pitching side of things. But this is what you want. And as we said, if the Dodgers can score 6 runs, they should win games. Last night they didn't, and maybe it was one of those where, last night they probably deserved to win the game, and they didn't win the game, or 2 nights ago now. And then last night they probably maybe didn't deserve to win the game, that they got lucky, but it ended up, it kind of worked itself out.
Yeah. 6 hits, 6 walks, and 3 hit batters. So 15 base runners, the hit batters count too. And it was pretty wild. And you mentioned they maybe didn't deserve to win this game. And mostly that's because you don't expect to get out of even 1 bases loaded, no out jam unscathed, let alone 2. Like when Hudson went to 3 balls when it was first and second and nobody out in the 9th inning, I yelled at my TV, we're not going to get out of a second bases loaded, no out jam. You need to throw strikes. And he didn't. He walked him. And it's like, because in the 7th inning, Bickford had come in, got the last out of the bottom of or top of the 6th. He starts the 7th inning and just couldn't throw strikes. He just lost command of the zone, loaded the bases. His last pitch almost murdered Andrew McCutchen. It was up around his head. McCutchen went down awkwardly on his right elbow. Looked like he jammed his shoulder. I was worried in the moment. I thought we might have just seen the end of McCutchen's career because the way he stayed down and held his arm, it looked like he had dislocated his shoulder. And it's like, if a guy at McCutchen's age needs shoulder surgery, that, could be a career ender. And so I was glad when he got up, stayed in the game, even had another at bat later in the game. So I was happy for that. But, that pitch loaded the bases, nobody out, and Ryan Brasier comes in and even, Brasier, credit to him. He threw strikes. That was the big thing you needed. But the first batter, Brian Reynolds, hits a screaming line drive that Miguel Rojas made a leaping catch on, a foot higher. That's a 2-run double probably. And, but it was right in the right spot. So the Dodgers definitely got lucky there. And then Brasier, I think he got a strikeout next. And then the line drive to Mookie Betts at second base to get out of the inning. Once you get that first out, you start thinking, okay, well, maybe there's a chance, because then a double play is always a possibility, or then you can kind of pitch for the strikeout. So getting that first out was huge.
Well, the 2 liners and the strikeout.
Yeah. But it went liner, strikeout, liner, right?
I think that was liner, strikeout.
No, it was liner, pop up. That's right.
Oh yeah.
The pop up to Max Muncy. Yeah. And he caught it. Yeah, that's right. There wasn't a strikeout in there. Was 2 line drives and then the pop up in the infield. You knew, okay, you got out of the inning, and then you're like, okay, but who's going to catch it? Come on. Will Smith is thinking about catching. He's about to toss his mask, and he hears Muncy call him off, and Muncy made the catch. That's all that matters. But it was a little bit more nerve-wracking than it should have been, but it was like the least nerve-wracking part of that inning, because basically nobody out. You don't expect it out of that. And that was the first time they did. And like we talked about before, they got at it again in the 9th inning. The Pirates, you could say, Bobby Miller didn't pitch poorly enough to allow 4 runs probably. But the bullpen didn't pitch well enough to allow 0 runs. And so maybe that all evens out, but it was, hopefully the Dodgers learned that this was the exception to the rule, and that loading the bases with no outs isn't actually a winning strategy. It was kind of funny because Twitter seems to think the Dodgers are terrible with bases loaded, nobody out. And so when they're on offense. And so it was like the Pirates were basically what Twitter thinks the Dodgers are with bases loaded, nobody out tonight. And, it worked out for the Dodgers this time. And these are the kind of games, to have a successful season, you have to win some games like this where, all right, we probably shouldn't have won that game, but we got a little bit lucky and we won the game. And you hope to not need that luck very often. And you hope to get your disproportionate share of that luck in the games that you do need it.
Because the inning they scored 2, they had bases loaded, nobody out, the Dodgers, right? And then they got the sac fly, and then Rojas got the 2-out hit. So
yeah, sac fly, and then Outman struck out when they, runner on third, 1 out. Would have loved another sac fly, but Rojas made it a moot point because he did get that 2-out hit. And so, yeah, it was kind of a dichotomy. It's rare to see 3 times in one game bases loaded, nobody out, and the Dodgers got 2 runs in there one time, and the Pirates got 0 runs in there 2 times. And that was the difference in the ball game, basically.
Yeah.
So speaking of the bullpen, The Dodgers bullpen is going to be shorthanded for the next couple days for a few reasons we're going to talk about when we come back. So thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please continue to keep it Locked On Dodgers. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. We want to remind you again, you can catch the live radio hometown broadcast of every Dodger game on SiriusXM or the SXM app. Just search for Dodgers on the SXM app. You can also listen to this podcast on the SXM app by searching for Locked On Dodgers. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love to hear from you in the YouTube comment section. We got a lot of comments on yesterday's episode in the YouTube section. A lot of comments about Dustin May and about the game. Seems like comments are a little bit heavier when in games that the Dodgers lose. Hopefully, for all the Fire Dave Roberts comments that we got on, that we get every time the Dodgers lose, Dave Roberts pushed some pretty good buttons here, especially for his limited options. And, we found out after the game, Brusdar Graterol was unavailable, which we wondered about, like, why is Brian Hudson the other one warming up with Daniel Hudson? Found out Graterol has been unavailable the last couple days, which also explains a little bit more why Evan Phillips was the option for the third straight day on Tuesday night. But in this particular game, you know what? Going to Phil Bickford when he did, going to Ryan Brasier when he did, who pitched the eighth inning? Caleb Ferguson. Yeah. Ferguson for a third straight day, which had potential to backfire. And Ferguson, he battled and he looked great. It was the right call. And then Daniel Hudson got things done. We joke that Dave Roberts is a much better manager when his players play well. And you know what? That's what happened here. And there was plenty of potential for backfire, but it didn't backfire. And so we can actually see, oh yeah, those were good moves. Sometimes the good moves don't work and sometimes they do. And I'm glad when they do. With Graterol being unavailable, Robert said after the game that we're going to have to see on today, Thursday, if Graterol is okay. He said it's something with his arm. Sounds like Graterol's probably going on the injured list unless they see a remarkable recovery from him. And Yency Almonte is going up on the paternity list any day now. His wife is due anytime now and probably going to happen before the All-Star break. Would be awesome if it happened during the All-Star break, but it doesn't look like it's going to. And so Dodgers are already shorthanded. Obviously, Caleb Ferguson is going to be unavailable today after pitching 3 straight days and threw 25, 26 pitches in tonight's game. And so Ferguson's going to be unavailable. Graterol is going to be probably on the IL. Almonte could be unavailable. Phillips will be available, presumably, but he's also probably still you'd love to give him 2 days off in a row after throwing 3 straight days. So he'll probably be going to try to stay away from. So it seems like this would be the ideal situation for the Dodgers offense to really explode. And maybe Brian Hudson can throw, 3 innings or something after Julio goes, it's going to come down to Julio. If Julio could go 5 innings, offense scores a bunch of runs, let Brian Hudson go 2 or 3 innings. And then whoever they call up to replace Graterol when they place him on the IL and, or whoever they call up to replace Almonte when he goes on paternity, the offense could really, really do the Dodgers some favors here.
Yeah, I mean, that's an ideal situation. Well, it's going to hinder on Julio and how he does because offense could score a lot, but if Julio doesn't pitch very well, then they're still going to be in the same spot, needing arms. One thing on this crunch, and, I don't know how they would treat him anyways, but Gavin Stone was still with the Dodgers, even though he got optioned. He was out there for PFP drills before the game started, so he didn't go down. So, if Graterol does go on, Stone could be a guy that's still there. But again, he threw 2 innings the other day. I don't know
50 pitches.
Yeah, so realistically, he's not built for that. So his need would be more for this weekend, after he's had a few days off. But they have a bunch of guys down there right now, guys that, maybe we don't want up, like Gonzalez and Vesia and Brule, but, I'm sure one of those guys is, if not already in LA, on the way to LA for a potential move if they need him. Because anytime, Roberts, at this point this season, if they say we're waiting an extra day, it's basically at this point, I don't know what they're waiting for. Like it happened with Muncy and his hamstring, and he ended up going on the IL. It's happened with a couple other guys, and at this point, even with a thin bullpen, I'd rather get guys right for the second half of the season rather than try to hold them out. So if Graterol's not feeling well, and we'd heard about Roberts. He said that a lot of guys, there was some smoke or whatever a few weeks ago or a month ago when the Dodgers were really going in it with using the bullpen a lot. And maybe this is some of that. Shelby Miller went on the IL and he's going to be out longer than they thought because his neck's still bothering him, and Graterol arm thing. So maybe this is some of that smoke that's starting to come to fruition for the bullpen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like they don't really have that many great options. Victor Gonzalez is in the minors because he's been terrible. Alex Vesia is, I assume Vesia is going to be one of the two guys called up because he, if nothing else, he's maybe the most rested. He threw 16 pitches on Monday. Eric Steven had a good tweet breaking down guys on the 40-man roster and how much they've pitched recently. He threw 16 pitches on Monday. That's the last time he pitched, so he'll be rested and ready to go. Robertson, what's his first name?
Nick.
That's right, Nick. I was thinking of Phil Robertson, but I think he's from Duck Dynasty. Anyway, he threw 22 pitches on Tuesday, and that's pretty much those are your guys. Gonzalez hasn't pitched since he was terrible for the Dodgers on Sunday, but he's a warm body, but not much else at this point, I think. So Alex Vesia, and then maybe we do see a move with a guy who's not on the 40-man roster. Maybe it's time to call up one of those minor league studs, or a guy like some AAA starter who can at least give you backup depth as a long reliever. So there's options there, but really, the Dodgers need the offense to show up. Johan Oviedo's pitching for the Pirates. He's got good stuff, but he doesn't actually strike out a lot of guys. He's only got 7.8 strikeouts per 9 this year, 7.7 in his career. And so he's a guy that the Dodgers should be able to put some damage on, get some base runners on, because they've got good hitters. If it's not a strikeout guy, they're going to put the bat on the ball and they're going to get their hits. So be nice to really, really break out. And I mean like a 13 run, outburst, so that it can be, maybe you even let Yanni Hernandez pitch the last inning, that would be the nicest present that they could give Dave Roberts for July 6th, whatever he's celebrating on July 6th.
Yeah. And it's funny, like Royals and Pirates, Royals were really bad. Pirates were good start the year, but have just kind of tailed off. But it's just like, damn, you think about Julio facing this Pirates lineup, like, quote unquote, and you're like, man, just the way Julio's looked and the way the Pirates lineup has been annoying the last couple of days, you're like, oh, it doesn't match up well. But hopefully, he's got his feet under him. He's back at home at Dodger Stadium. Maybe meeting Peso Pluma will, fuel him into pitching well, because the Dodgers could really use the innings, especially considering that, Gonsolin is right after him, and Gonsolin hasn't been that great either. And then you got Saturday, Grove, and who knows, the end is near in terms of getting to the break, but they still need, one good start to kind of really set them good.
Yeah. And the bright side is Jack Suwinski and Brian Reynolds are both much worse against left-handed pitching. So, if Julio's got his command, he should be okay. Peso Pluma, Penny Feather, is that basically kind of okay? I had never heard of the guy. I was a little bit surprised that he didn't really look anything like Shelby Miller when I saw him. I don't see the
just
resemblance.
The mullet. I think that's literally all it is, because they're both light skin and mullet. Maybe, I guess that's it. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. All right then. Maybe I'll grow my hair out. Have I told you what I'm going to be for Halloween, Vince?
No.
I'm going to be Guy Fieri. I think I'm going to do an episode full on Guy Fieri. I'm going to bleach the strip of my beard. Yeah, I'm going to be full on Guy Fieri. So I think I'm doing an episode in my costume. First time in my life I've been excited for Halloween. So
an episode from Flavor Town.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us for today, right, Vince?
That'll do it.
All right. Thank you all for being everydayers. If you're not, easy to join the club. Just watch or listen every day. Remember, you can check out the Dodgers hometown radio broadcast every single time they play on SiriusXM or the SXM app, just by searching for Dodgers. You can find us wherever you get podcasts and or on YouTube. You can also find us on social media. We're at Locked On Dodgers on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Snydog. Vince is at VinceSense91. DMs are open in all of those places.
Maybe we'll be on Threads by next episode.
Yeah, maybe. Our email address is lockedondodgers@gmail.com. And our phone number for voicemails or text messages is 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.